Welcome to A Taste of Justice. I'm Professor Angela Mae Kupenda. This semester, I'm going to record some shorts on some short videos. I hope they'll be short on the First Amendment, a course I am teaching this semester. These are designed for my students to give them a little bit of a review, but also for all of us as we learn more about the Constitution and hope to be able to achieve more justice. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you a rule and then briefly explain it. It is a simple rule, so to speak. It sounds simple, but the application of it can be very complicated. Now, in the text box beneath this video, I'm going to refer you back to some earlier videos that I recorded just in case you wanted to expand your knowledge on some of the concepts. Okay, well, before I tell you that, let me just say, for informational purposes only, I'm a professor at Mississippi College School of Law. I've taught at various law schools and business schools for over 30 years now. Okay, here is the rule. Pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. That is, unless the government meets the most exacting level of scrutiny, or unless the speech is in an unprotected category. There, the government has more leeway in regulating the speech. I know that was a mouthful, but we're going to break it down. Let's start with pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. Now, when you hear that pure speech, I know your mind immediately went to, why is the speech called pure? So pure speech is protected. What about pure conduct? Pure conduct is not protected under the First Amendment, but pure speech is. Let me give you an example that will come up in a case we will consider weeks down the road. So it was during the time where we had a mandatory military draft for young men. And a young man went into a courthouse and he was wearing a jacket. His jacket had written on it, on the back of the jacket, F, the draft. Now, it wasn't the letter F by itself. You know the word, F, the draft. It was spelled out on the back of his jacket. And he was arrested for wearing that jacket in the courthouse. Now, was his wearing the jacket pure speech that is protected from content regulation by the government? Or when you put on your jackets and your clothes every day, is that pure conduct? Pure conduct is not protected under the First Amendment. Or was it something in the middle, which may be a combination of speech and conduct, which receives some protection, but not as much as pure speech? Now, I'm not going to answer that right now. I want you to think on it, but let me go on to another point. Pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. Now, when he was arrested, was the government arresting him because of the content of his speech? That would be his argument. But the government may say, no, it was not the content of your speech as to why we were arresting you. It was just a matter of decorum. It was a reasonable time, place, and manner regulation. There were children present in the courtroom. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. We'll answer those questions in a few weeks. Let's go over the rule again. Pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. And let me pause there. What if he was not arrested by a government official? What if a private citizen detained him because he was wearing the jacket and the officers in the courtroom just stood by and watched it and did nothing to intervene? Was his speech then being regulated by the government? Or was it being regulated by a private person? Because the First Amendment is designed to protect us from regulations by the government. Now, in the text box below, really the issue I'm raising is whether there was the entwinement of government action, whether there was state action, or whether the private person was acting under color of law. Those are critical questions to determine whether or not his speech was being regulated by what? The government. But we will revisit some of that again later too. Let's go back to the rule again. Pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. That is, unless the government meets the most exacting level of scrutiny. I have a clip noted at the bottom about levels of scrutiny. When the government, generally, when the government infringes upon certain individual rights, government must meet a very high test, a most exacting test called strict scrutiny. Can government regulate our pure speech? Oh, yes, it can. But government must demonstrate a compelling governmental interest and that the regulation is narrowly tailored to its interest. Let's go to the rule again. Pure speech is protected from content regulation by the government. That is, unless the government meets the most exacting level of scrutiny, or, yes, there's an or unless the speech is in an unprotected category, then government has more leeway generally in regulating the speech. Now, so what's this? I'm adding something else. We have pure speech considered to be protected speech, but then some speech is placed in what is called an unprotected category. Unprotected categories of speech, government has more leeway in regulating. So was this speech on the jacket, was this speech advocating illegal action? Was it defamatory? Was it obscene? So was it fighting words? So if the speech falls in an unprotected category, government may regulate it more. So again, this was just a little bite, a little taste of the concepts and the rules we will be covering in the First Amendment course. And so I hope you subscribe and sign up for notifications so you can learn with us as we travel through the semester studying about our rights under the First Amendment. Learning is so very important. Learning leads to enlightenment, and enlightenment to justice, or at least to a taste of justice. I'll see you in about a week. You take care.